Hi, Gadget UK here again. You can see we're looking at Voodoo 2 here. I filmed this way back in 2019, just after I lost my job. There'll be a link down below to a channel you should check out if you want to know more about Voodoo cards. Bits and Bobs does an amazing job looking at Voodoos. He's covered so many of them, but this one sort of predates when he first did some Voodoo stuff. Yeah, so I worked out the issue with this card here before his channel landed. But as you'll see in the next video, when we look at Voodoo 1, the issues you see in this video, you get them on the other cards in the series as well. It's got a PCI interface. Got posted to me in this single chippy bag with that, which, yeah, I think is ESD safe. It probably came in that originally. And straight away I thought, I'm going to inspect this before I power this up because I don't fancy its chances of surviving. And you're probably not going to be able to see from this distance. Can you see we've got a pin there, Ben? I'll show you some close-up photos in a second. A pin there and a pin there. So yeah, I don't hold high hopes that this is going to work. And looking at the jiffy bag, it doesn't look like there's any marks on the bag, which makes me think it was like this before I even sent it. It could be someone trying to pull a fast one, I think. So yeah, anyway, I've reported you know, the issue, the damage here to the seller on eBay. Sent some photos. I'm going to try and resolve this, but I think I'd like either a refund or certainly a partial refund. If I can get it working, it might be a different story. But I don't think the chances are high because the pin down here is significantly bent. It could even be sheared off. I've seen much less of a physical damage like that cause these to just be not working, even when you bend the pin back into position and reflow it. So I'm going to have a go with the pin here, and then I'll perhaps give you a macro afterwards compared to the stills that I showed you in a minute. So there's a couple of Voodoo 1s coming up in the next few videos. Voodoo 2 was obviously the second card, so it's a strange choice for me to go straight to a Voodoo 2. But I had a Voodoo 2 in the loft, and I got another Voodoo 2, this one you see here, to go alongside it in SLI mode. To my knowledge, SLI, this was kind of like the first implementation of it. The idea that you'd have two cards in one system, and each one would operate on a different scan line, like even or odd scan lines in terms of textures. So one TMU, and I'll talk about it in a sec, one TMU would operate on the even scan lines of textures, if you like, and the other one would be the odd scan line textures. So the Voodoo 2 had one FBI chip and two TMU chips. As you'll see when we look at the Voodoo 1, you only had one of each. You had the FBI frame buffer, and you had one TMU, the texture management unit. The Voodoo 1 was 4 megabytes, you had 2 megabytes for each of those two chips, and you can actually count the RAM there. You know, you've got 4 of each, and it was 128-bit memory width. If you count the chips there, 16, 32, 48, 64, it's the same on the TMU there. So that's where you get the 128 bits, you know, bandwidth of, you know, data access it's got. But on the Voodoo 2, the smaller card was 8 megabytes, the FBI had 4 megabytes, and each TMU had 2 megabytes, which gave you your base 8 megabyte model. This one's a 12 megabyte model. I can't make sense of the RAM because if you look on the underside, you've got enough space there for what looks like another, you know, to double the RAM to 16 megabytes. So something there doesn't add up. I can't quite make sense of it. I've researched it a fair bit and I can't quite understand how the number of chips on the underside on the 12 meg version gives you an additional 4 megabytes to take it to 12 megabytes. The FBI chip, incidentally, was codenamed Chuck, and you'll see markings on the actual chip itself of CK, and the TMU was codenamed Bruce. I'm assuming that those were like the engineers that worked on these chips. Found another one. That is as good as I can get, that one there. So it's pushed away from the, you know, the other pin. It's just a case of using a penny and just push it in between, just very gently try and separate them. But I think I'm going to need to reflow that because, you know, what happens more often than not is it detaches from the solder. But the big question is whether it's detached on the edge here from the bond wires inside. I mean, they do extend a fair bit inside usually. Looks okay around there, but I just inspecting around here, I found one here as well, I think. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I just can't get any closer because of the length of the board, but this pin here is a bit bent to the left hand side, so that will need straightening. And again, hopefully you can see that. I think it was the end one, and you can see the one up there, so they're now separated as best as I can. You know, you'll never get them perfectly straight. They bend super easy and they're very, very fragile, so if you keep wobbling them one way then the other, you'll break them off. But again, I'm probably going to need to put a bit of flux on there and just reflow that as well. I'll just see if we can get anywhere near this one so that you can see it. I can't see it now, actually. Yeah, the fourth impact is here. I'll see if I can do this. I can't see very well what I'm doing because I'm just using a macro here. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it this way, actually, because I just can't see what I'm doing. Film here, just push the pin very gently in there. I think I might have done that. Yeah, I think it needs a little bit of pressure. And this is where it's going to block. This is where it's going to block the camera. It needs a little bit of pressure in the lower part there, and I just can't do it from this angle. So hopefully that's going to be okay. I spotted 3 or 4 bent pins, and it tends to be the corner ones. You know, I think there was a couple more on here that I'd not spotted, because we did the ones from this side here. Those were the first ones that I showed. But then I found like one on this side here, one on here, one on here, one on here or something. So there was like another 3 or 4. So, you know, it's just a case of just inspecting now super carefully along the sides of each one, just to make sure I've managed to straighten those up. And as I say, I might have to reflow. You know, this one's the worst one here, because that corner pin is kind of, you know, as you can see, it's higgledy-piggledy. It's bent right out there, but it's not shorted. But that's the one I suspect could be detached. I might just give it a try, I think. So just opening up the P2 here. Now the thing I like about this, I've shown this Pentium 2 on my channel before. You can lift that little lever there and the whole card bay comes out like this, so you can kind of get access. You can see I've got the 2 cards in here. I've got this working. It was a bit of a pain, if I'm completely honest, because I spotted another 3 or 4 bent pins. I inspected very carefully around there and found some more. Then it started working. But what I want to do, I'm just getting the occasional black flicker, like a flickering line, a single line every now and again over the display. And I found that when they're the other way around, I don't get that. But it works perfectly. The SLI is enabled and stuff, so I'm going to swap them around. It's annoying I couldn't show you me fitting it the first time round, but I guess I can sort of show you that now. And you can see the SLI bridge here. It's just 2 IDC connectors that just join the 2 boards. So I unscrewed the cables from the back and stuff, and I've unscrewed the screw there that holds it into the slot. If we just kind of massage that out, that one's out. Let's do the same with that one. I've dropped one of the screws inside, but if we just pull these out, you can see how they're joined there, just with these 2 IDC connectors. I need to find that screw now. Oh, there it is. Yeah, you can just about see that on the end of there. Yeah, I almost lost it. So I'll swap these around, but I'll show you the other pins that they're bent. This is my original 3D FX card. You can see here, you know, it's not got the Orchid branding here. Both of these cards are 12 megabytes. So if I just disconnect the IDC connectors carefully, you can tell the 12 meg because some of these are not, all the RAM is not populated. Can you see how many RAMs are on the underside there? And it's the same on the top. You know, there's an awful lot of RAM on these. So I'd hate to try and diagnose a fault with a faulty RAM on one of those. There's quite a few. You can see I originally bought this from Scan Computers. Actually, it's got a Scan warranty label on there, I think. And here's the Orchid one that we started looking at the beginning of this video. The one thing I haven't shown, let me see which way around it was. Yeah, this side here, do you remember we had a bent pin down here? You're not going to be able to see this probably because of the reflection and stuff from the light, but I had to reflow that. I had to get a little bit of flux on there and reflow it. But then I spotted, I think there was a bent pin over here somewhere. There was like 1 or 2 bent pins on this side. There were 1 or 2 bent pins around here. I think I spotted another 4 in total. So yeah, that's super annoying actually. And you know what? I contacted the seller and he was like, well, I'll contact eBay and I'll arrange for a refund, you know, because it wasn't working at that point. And I said, well, I might be able to get it working if I can deal with all these bent pins. How about, you know, a partial, you know, like just give me 10 quid back or something if I can get this working. So I went away and did all that stuff. I spent about 3 hours messing with the damn thing, trying to get it working. I did get it working eventually, and then he said, then he was humming and ahhing, you know, he was like, well, I'll speak to eBay, and then he was like, well, it might be a while to get the cash, once I've got the funds, I'll let you know. And I'm thinking, I've just paid you like 70 quid for this, you've got the funds, you know. So I was getting a bit annoyed, and I went away and looked at the adverts, the original advert, and you know what? The pins that were bent here and the pins that were bent there, you could see on the photo. I hadn't noticed. And I do remember seeing one of these sold for spares or repair about a month or two back on eBay, and I'm pretty sure it's this same board. So that guy has bought one for spares repair, he's tried it, he couldn't get it working, and he's tried to flog it as being functioning, and then given me a story about how he played Quake 2 on it 2 weeks ago. There is no way, with all the pins that were bent on there, that it was working. Anyway, nevertheless, I've got it working, I've got a discount, so yeah, I just need to swap this ribbon around now. I'll do that now, just so that I don't get these mixed back up. So we'll take the one off there, and then put the one here, there, so that it's easy to, there you go. I can't get them mixed up now, I know that the other one wants to go on this side. The other thing I did here was just clean up these PCI connectors with an IP8 and cotton bud, because at one point I was getting problems with my original card actually, and it was just a bit of, you know, I must have touched it, you get fingerprints and things on those. You can interfere with the connectivity. The other thing you really should do when you're working on things like this is wear an ESD wrist strap. With PC stuff, people just kind of take it for granted, you know, they go in these and they don't wear an ESD wrist strap, but you really should, although I'm not wearing one just now. So we'll just carefully get these boards back in now. It's quite hard actually when there's two of them like this. And obviously you can put the IDC connector on afterwards, but I found that you can, you know, with a little bit of juggling here, get them both back into position. Yeah, you see, so that's the first one in there. Just need to just carefully get the other one into position now. And that's the second one. And the key, and the thing is with these, you'll be experienced yourself if you've been inside PCs before, but you need to make sure that, you know, the lip here sits flat, because sometimes you get like an overhang, you know, it's bent upwards a little bit, and then when you screw it in, it lifts the board up on one side so the back end comes out. And you also need to make sure it's screwed in so that the card is as straight as possible, ideally, just to make sure that you get a good connection, and then maybe even just press it down a little bit like that once you've screwed it in, just to make sure it's firmly in place. The thing I would point out is I'm not sure it's completely worth going with a dual Voodoo 2 setup like this. I mean, you'll see in a minute, you know, it does run very, very well, but yeah, I'm just not 100% sure on the real benefit. You know, you're using a lot of extra, you know, you're going to consume a lot of extra power having two of these boards like this. You'd probably be better off just not having the you know, the Millennium I've got here and the two Voodoos, and just put a Voodoo 3 in or something, I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to clean the bridge here with some IPA and paper towel before I just reassemble it. And I'll see if I can show you that. I'm just going to use, like I said, cotton bud, and just gently go over the gold plated connectors there. Just because there's bits of dust floating around inside this, you know, and I could have touched some of these connections and things, so I just want to make sure we get a nice good join. Now we just need to carefully turn this on its side. Just move those power connectors out of the way, yeah. Just carefully turn it around and try and get it back into the right position. Yeah, I think that's right. You might not be able to see down here, but you can sort of see the interconnect where that bridge sits, and then as you pull this down, it should sink downwards, and just press it, just press it just to make sure it's completely in there. At that point, I think I'll power it up like this with the lid off and just give it a try. So something else I'll point out, when you've got two Voodoo 2s in here, it's critical as to which one you put the pass-through into and your video out. Because I was finding that when you go into, I'll show you in a minute, when you go into the control panel thing, you know, to look at the display properties, if you've got it set to the wrong one, it hangs the system. It's always, in my case, it's always got to be the top card, no matter which way the cards are around. So it's not like there's a fault on one of them. It really is just a case of, for whatever reason with SLI, one particular slot, in my case the top one, seems to take precedent. That's like the primary one. It's like the other one that's used as some sort of secondary. And if, like I say, if you then try and load the display properties, it freezes the system. So we'll just make sure that's all firmly in place and power that up. So booted into Windows there, let's just have a look at properties. Yeah, it does pick up the 512 meg RAM there. But in terms of the Voodoo cards, if I look at these display properties, so I added this tab, and this, I think this came from Phil's Computer Lab actually. It was a little plugin you can do there, and it adds this extra tab, and it just allows you to overclock or underclock, you know, on Glide or Direct 3D, and you can change the rate, you know, the frequencies there. I've just got this set to 90 factory defaults. And if I look at the 3DFX tab, now this is where if you've got the pass-through and the VGA out connected to the wrong card, it hangs, just freezes completely. And I've proven that, like I say, swapping the cards around, it does the same either way. It's got to be, in my case, always whichever one is the top card. Now I've been playing around with the gamma because I've been having some brightness issues with this, and I think that might be a problem on the DAC on the Matrox Millennium actually. It could also be a capacitor issue on there, I'm not sure. It didn't seem to be 3DFX cards here, the Voodoos, because when it happened, what was happening, it was like the bright, if you imagine the brightness as it is now, it was like 20% as bright as that, but not in Windows, only in games. It did seem to, you know, you would think that that was a Voodoo thing, but it was doing it on either card. It didn't matter which card I had as the primary card, it was doing it all the time regardless. Now I have had that problem prior to installing this second Voodoo card here, but if I load Half-Life here, you'll see it runs really fluidly actually. Yeah, so one thing you can see these little lines down here? From time to time I've noticed those. I'm not really sure what I can do about that. I think that is to do with the SLI actually. It looks great and it runs super fluid in 800 by 600 here. I think previously it was struggling a little bit on 800 by 600, but with the second card it's running really well. Anyway, I need to get some more games on here now to have a play around with this. Yeah, so not much exciting to show you here. This game is kind of just using direct draw, I think. I don't know whether it's using the Voodoo, you know, filtering or anything like that. We'll soon see when it goes into the game. There we go, it seems to be working. There's no sound obviously because I use headphones here. But yeah, you wouldn't believe how difficult it was working out the setup there of this game. You know, forming your, you know, squad or whatever it is, you know, to start the round. Kind of reminds me of Command and Conquer, the graphics on this. And the interface is very similar as well. You can see you start with some awful mechs, they just look like humanoid type things. But nevertheless, that's working. It's not doing anything fancy with the Voodoo 2, well it probably is using the Voodoo 2 for the graphics there. Maybe not, it might be just using the Matrox. But it seems to run really well actually on this system. I mean, it uses DirectX 5, this actually, a direct draw, direct show I think 5 as well. So it's probably low in terms of specs. So I'll install a bit of Need for Speed 2 SE. I loved this game actually, I played this on the Voodoo 2 originally. Funnily enough, this was actually a leaving present from a company I worked at. They all sort of got together some vouchers I think and got me this game for the PC. So I've connected the speaker, it's not very loud, just so we get a little bit of sound. It's an awful speaker. So if we go into graphics, yeah, window size full, image quality high, distance far, horizon on, done. Very little in the way of options here to the graphics. So let's just start it, I think. Yeah, that's not using Voodoo, is it? I think that might need the Voodoo patch. You can tell straight away that that's not using the Voodoo. Actually, there's a big difference. You know, there's next to no filtering going on there. This is one of the nice things that the Voodoo cards brought to the table. So if you're struggling to get this game working yourself, copy the NFS2ENA EXE. See that there? Copied it from the CD, route the CD into the game folder. And watch this now. We should get a 3DFX splash. There we go. Yeah, I can see that that's looking better already. You do get these like bands coming down the display here. That's just an artifact of SLI, I think, from what I can gather. I see lots of people moaning about that on the internet. I can see some filtering there actually that wasn't there before. I don't know whether any of the graphic options will change here or not.
yeah, it seems to have minimised it, doesn't it? Far, horizon on, detail on, slightly different graphics settings. So let's start a race again, and hopefully we should be able to tell the difference. It just looks far, far, far better on Voodoo. Oh, I'm hoping so. Yeah, that looks nice and smooth. Hopefully you can see the difference, you know, there's a lot of filtering going on there compared to as it was. Sweet. I'm not sure if there's enhancements to MechWarrior 2. I'm not sure, I can't remember. I might get MechWarrior 2 on here. I've got that on the DOS compact flash card, but I might get it on here as well. Yeah, I'm playing awfully because I'm using the keyboard. But you can see I'm getting a fantastic frame rate. It's absolutely perfect. But you do often have to get patches and things for some of these games, you know. A few of them will work out of the box like this one, you know, you've got an execute one there that happens to work with the Voodoo and the Voodoo 2. But other games, yeah, you have to go and get patches and things for. So let's launch Unreal. This is the gold version. I can't remember, I think this might give you options at the start here before it boots as to what version you want. I might have already done that, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think the first time it loads you choose whether you want Voodoo, 3D effects, and I've done that. And you can see that looks amazing. I don't know how well that's going to come out on the capture, but to me it looks super smooth and filtered. I mean, it's a bit blocky compared to you know, modern systems and stuff, modern games. Yeah, I don't like the bands, you know, but those, as I say, are related to the SLI. It's cleared up a bit actually since I auto-synced that. So let's just do a new game. Volume level super low. Can you see that waviness across the display as well? I only got that when I set up the SLI. It's ages since I've played this. I've forgotten how it works now. Got the lift. The thing I always remember about this being blown away is when you get out of the ship here, you know, the crashed ship, and get out onto the planet. I need to do look inversion. The graphics look absolutely amazing. There's like this little waterfall or something and some water at the bottom. It blew me away with how well it looked. So that's now 800 by 600. And again, look at the silky frame rate. Amazing. I'll get to the outside bit and I'll just show you. I'll see if I'd be interested just to see what that outside water area looks like. And before we get there, just look at that illumination, you know, that lighting effect there, fog sort of lighting effects. That was kind of new to the 3DFX. Many of the cards couldn't do that at the time. Yeah, that's a memorable bit as well. Yeah, the screaming gunshots on the other side of this door. This door doesn't open, but then it does open. And you just see that alien creature sort of running off. I'm not far off the exterior of the ship here, I think. Yeah, here we are. Yeah, look at that. Can you see the ripples in the water there? I was blown away by that when I first saw that. I'll zoom in just so you can get a better look. Yeah, on first seeing that sort of effect in a game here, you know, with the amazing translucencies and stuff, yeah, I was blown away. It's nowhere near as impressive now as it was for me back in the day. So I'll try a bit of incoming from Rage Software. Again, this was a game I've got fond memories of. Well, it wasn't a particularly brilliant game, actually. There we go, we can choose 3D effects, Voodoo Direct 7 driver. Yeah, it wasn't that great a game, it was an action game. But, you know, I can see the filtering going on there straight away, and there as well. It's always looked very crisp and detailed to me, this game. That's the blade of the helicopter flickering at the top. I thought we had a graphical artifact or something going on there. So yeah, you can affect the lighting, colour level, detail, high, exit, controller. Yeah, I might have to use keyboard on this. I do have a joystick, but I just can't be bothered turning it up. So this game could have fight off like waves of invading aliens, effectively. There we go, I can move the cursor. What's the fire button? But you can see the nice textured lighting and stuff, lighting effects. It's really nice. It runs way too fast actually on the keyboard here. This is where a joystick would be better. I think you can destroy all these buildings as well, you're supposed to be protecting them, but yeah, I always remember this as being very hard. I could only get, I don't know, a quarter way through it because it was so blooming hard. You get wave after wave of incoming enemy vehicles attacking you. When you change from being a ground-based turret like this to a helicopter or a tank or whatever, I can't quite remember it. But yeah, lots of nostalgia looking back at this game.
Yeah, so the earlier part of the video was filmed years ago, like 7 years ago I think. But you can see on the microscope here now the work that I did to this. I've got to be careful, both cards are joined up at the moment. And I really should just inspect, so you can see where I flowed that pin there. It's worth just, you know, pressing around some of these pins again, just to make sure they are actually joined on there. But I'm going to run Mojo in a minute just to see, like, is it detected okay? I mean, it seems okay. This card is better than some of them, where all of the pins just detach. But yeah, they seem to be pretty secure there. If one of the corner pins are loose, you definitely need to reflow. What's different about this compared to Voodoo 1, which you'll see coming up on my channel, they're not labelled on the chip, whether it's the TMU or the FBI. I'm guessing this is the FBI, and I think the two TMUs are up top. Yeah, I'm having to move the microscope here rather than the thing, because it's like I say, sat on top of the PC at the moment. I'm just having a quick look here, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, so this is the other TMU here. Just have a gentle press here. Try and move the board over that way. You can't see what I'm doing, but everything's in a big pile here. And the board is joined to the board below it via its SLI connector. Yeah, everything's solid, I think. Anyway, so I'll get those back into the Pentium 2 here. And these are both the 12 meg version, I think. Scanned computers, yeah, warranty. Void if removed. I'll clean these up before it goes back in, because you can see those look a little bit dirty. It was a bit dusty inside the machine, so yeah, I'll clean those back up and slide them back in place. Right, we're on Nicam again. I'm not going to use IPA to clean those connectors. I'm going to give it the gold treatment here, a bit of deoxit gold, just get a little bit on there. It's far better than just giving them a clean with IPA. I can see the oxidisation in the light here. You might be able to see it. They just don't look perfect, but well, they will after having been treated with that. The gold plated, so it's not like they've got corrosion on. What it is just a bit of dirt, if you like, from the actual socket side that these plug into. And let's try and do that one, but Orchid Righteous 3D. Probably going to find that one of them's not reported the right amount of memory now when I plug it in. It's possible. It's possible. This is why I want to do this step here, testing and checking with the microscope, but we may have to revisit the Orchid one. Yeah. You can't really see very well here because, well, I haven't got much space to work in, but we've got the Sound Blaster AWE32 here. In fact, it's an AWE64, I think, this one, but we've got some to fix. I've got my compact flash adapter in a slot there. We've got two PCI slots free inside there and one ISA in the middle. One of these slots here is optional, PCI or ISA. And then we've got the two Voodoo 2s here and a Matrox Millennium, I think, on the end here, with a 4 meg expansion on that. Including this, I'm not sure I showed this, you get this pass through here, that goes from your normal VGA into one of the cards, and then one of the cards you've got to feed the output from, and I can never remember which order you do this in. I mean, this is bent in just the right shape that hopefully I shouldn't get it wrong. Coming back to the Voodoo 1, which we'll look at in the next video, those had a limit frame size of 640 by 480. That's all you could get, you know, VGA resolution. The Voodoo 2 8 meg brought in the 800 by 600. But if you have two in SLI, two of the Voodoo 2s, you can go up to 1024 by 768. We'll test that later. Right, let's see what Mojo says. May need a switch on this to indicate I've got SLI. Yeah, so it's picking up one of the cards there. Yeah, FBI memory 4 meg, and then we've got two TMUs. TMU 0, 4 meg, TMU 1, 4 meg, so it's 12 meg, that's right. 444. Test SLI. See what that does. SLI boards was not installed correctly. Appears power down, swap SLI boards and reboot. Let's have a look at devices. Device manager. Sound and video game. Yay! Voodoo 2 3D, Voodoo 2 3D. I do not know what is going on here. I do know sometimes, and I've had this before, if you've not got a disk in the drive and you try and launch something that needs a disk, it fails the copy protection check before it's even a chance to kind of do anything, if you see what I mean. Yeah, that was really weird. I had to reinstall Half-Life. I don't know whether there was some configuration left behind from the Voodoo 1, and when we swapped to the Voodoo 2s here, well, you know, it's just broke it. Or it could be SLI's not working here. That might be the other possibility. So let's see if we can get into settings here and choose the relevant configuration. Video modes, 3DFX mini driver. And technically we could probably go 800 or 600, but stick with that. And click OK. Straight away I can tell it's blurry. It's blurry. When it goes blurry like that, you know it's filtered. Wow. It's nice and fast, isn't it? As you'd imagine with two Voodoo 2s. There we go. Got some sound now. Going to the speakers, hum a little bit.
Hey, Mr. Freeman, I had a bunch of messages for you, but we had a system crash about 20 minutes ago, and I'm still trying to find my files.
Right, let's try that again. Test SLI. I'm sure it's going to complain the same way. Yep. SLI not detected board 0, SLI not detected board 1. Yeah, so we've got our two 3DFX devices there. That's really interesting. I swapped the two boards around and it seems to now work, because when you just do Mojo you get two things reported, 1, 2. Yeah, and you can see, you can't scroll back, can you? Maybe you can do Mojo 2 output, you know, pipe 2. Let's do output.text. Yeah, there we go. So we've got the first device there, and it's got 4 meg of FBI memory, 2 TMUs with 4 meg each, that's 12. Second device, 4 meg of FBI, again, 4 meg of each on the TMUs. So there we go, it works. But isn't that strange? Why would I have to swap the cards around? This is what I'm not understanding. If we do test SLI, maybe that'll work now, because Mojo on its own wasn't working right before. SLI board's not configured correctly. Master ID slave 54. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm convinced SLI is working despite the rubbish that's coming back from Mojo, because let me show you. If we go into the video here, we're in 1024 by 768, 3DFX OpenGL, yeah, and it's running so fluid there, yeah. The maximum resolution you can do with one 12 meg Voodoo 2 is 800 by 600. I know that because I've researched the heck out of it. And we can show, well, we can see that that's the issue, because if I go higher here, it should, in theory, not allow a larger resolution, I think. Because, yeah, here we go, I think. Server killed. Yeah, that's not worked. No. I don't know why, I seem to bomb it by going to a resolution that is not supported. There we go. Which brings us to the end of a pretty waffly video. You can tell why I haven't uploaded it for 5 years. Yeah, we will look at some more Voodoo stuff moving forward, some more games and stuff, including things like Tomb Raider and Carmageddon. There's all sorts of games that worked on these cards. One of the points I was going to mention earlier, the original Voodoo ran at 50 megahertz, well, between 45 and 50, and this Voodoo 2, you know, they were spec'd at 90, but they'll run at 100. So, and they can run a bit beyond that. You may have seen that on the desktop there, although it's a bit fuzzy when we're in Windows. You can actually change the speed there to 105 megahertz, maybe even a bit faster. So you could overclock them. But typically the Voodoo 2 is twice as fast as the Voodoo 1. But unless if you didn't have the 12 meg version, you were kind of a little bit limited on the texture memory. And, you know, games that were Voodoo 1 compatible might run worse on a Voodoo 2 than they did on a Voodoo 1, unless you had the 12 meg version. So the 12 meg version is what you want to go for if you're going to get a Voodoo 2. Anyway, hopefully you found that interesting. I'll catch you in the next video.